So, if it's almost everyone who is envious, then most likely it includes us also, right? Why should we be the big exception who is not envious? Yes. And also, let us be clear, we want to use this discussion not to discover the envy in other people's hearts, but in our hearts. Because if we use this to point the finger at others, they must be envious, well, what does it mean? That we are envious. That's what it means. So let us not allow our envy to manifest in such a gross way. Yes. So let us understand where envy comes from. So as soon as we are striving to enjoy the senses, as soon as sense gratification is an important part of our life, then envy will enter. Because then we are always trying to establish that we are the supreme enjoyer, we are the supreme controller. So that's what envy is all about, that we want to establish our superiority. And usually the way we use envy is that we say we are envious of somebody who has something which we don't have. But actually, I like to see things a little broader. Envy is actually a certain state of heart, a certain consciousness, which comes out in all relationships. Not only with somebody who has something which we don't have, but actually in all relationships. Towards seniors, towards equals, towards juniors. Because it's a certain consciousness behind. So this morning I would like to discuss with you one verse of the Mātā, which very nicely describes how envy manifests towards seniors equals juniors. Yeah. So this is 4th Canto, 8th chapter, verse 34. But I would like you to not look at your phone, but just hear. Because we want to be a little interactive, we want to remember. We want to hear attentively and remember what Prabhupada and the verse say. If you look at your phone, then you're just reading it off your phone. That's no big deal. But we want to hear and remember. So I will once chant through the Sanskrit. Gunadikam lipset anukusham gunadama aitim samanadam vichenam tapya udyatem. Translation. Every man should act like this. And here man means human, not man in opposition to woman, but human being. So every man should act like this. When he meets a person more qualified than himself, he should be very pleased. When he meets someone less qualified than himself, he should be compassionate towards him. And when he meets someone equal to himself, he should make friendship with him. In this way, one is never affected by the threefold miseries of this material world. So that last sentence is already interesting, because it makes that point. If we just learn how to act in a non-envious way, we will not be affected by the miseries of this material world. Wow, that's amazing. So let us see what Prabhupada says in the report. Generally, when we find someone more qualified than ourselves, we become envious of him. So here Prabhupada uses that term envy towards somebody who has something which we don't have. When we find someone less qualified, we deride him. That's also envy. Yeah, that's how envy manifests towards subordinates. And when we find someone equal, we become very proud of our activities. That's also envy. Yeah. These are the causes of all material tribulations. So once again, that statement is here, that this envious behavior is the root cause of all suffering. The great sage Narada therefore advised that a devotee should act perfectly. Instead of being envious of a more qualified man, one should be jolly to receive him. Instead of being oppressive to a less qualified man, one should be compassionate towards him, just to raise him to the proper standard. And when one meets an equal, instead of being proud of one's own activities before him, one should treat him as a friend. One should also have compassion for the people in general who are suffering due to forgetfulness of Krishna. These important functions will make one happy in this material world. So very often the last sentence of the purport, Prabhupada one more time, hits the nail on the head. Right? Yes. So, reading this, we may think, well, aren't we always preaching that one cannot be happy in this material world? Right? But here we say, well, if one acts non-enviously, one can be happy. So that seems like a contradiction, but actually it's not a contradiction, because as we established in the beginning, envy comes when there are desires for sense gratification. That's when envy enters. So a person who is actually non-envious must be a pure devotee, actually. Right? Free from material desires. Only then we can really be non-envious. So when a person, a pure devotee who is free from material desires, within his or her consciousness, they're already in the spiritual world. They're not part of this material world. Right? They're fully absorbed in Shravana Kirtanam. They can't live without this hearing in the association of devotees. Just a bit of rain will not stop them from going to the temple. Rupa Goswami says there has to be loyalty and greed. Just a bit of rain stops us from going to the morning program. There's no loyalty. That's for sure. Right? Yes. Then we stay in our comfort zone. Okay, today I'm not coming. So there has to be intense greed there. So and then that person is not part of the material world. That person is already in the spiritual world. And then that person can be happy anywhere. Even in the material world. No difference for such a person whether he is in the material world or the spiritual world. Because his consciousness is Vaikuntha consciousness or Vrindavan consciousness. So it's not a contradiction. So now let us have a look how envy and non-envy manifest in our relationships towards seniors equals juniors. Just so we become a little aware how much envy we actually have in our hearts. Yes, often it is so hidden that we don't identify it. Yes, So towards seniors, yeah, I'm wondering, do you have to stand there? I mean, isn't one phone enough? Or what? Yeah. So let us first look at our relationships towards seniors. Who remembers the non-envious behavior? How do we receive a senior when we are not envious? What did Prabhupada say? What did Prabhupada say? Just see how little attention we have when we hear. We can't even remember 2 minutes later. What did Prabhupada say? We are pleased, we are jolly to receive him. That's what Prabhupada says. So, in other words, if we are envious, we are not so pleased and jolly to receive him. Right? We think, oh no, not this person is coming now. Okay. And we may go up to him and say, oh nice Guru, nice to see you. How long are you staying? Oh, 3 days, oh good. And then our heart, we think, oh thank God, after 3 days he's going again. So I have to see here to myself, I'm the center of attention. So, and what else do we do towards a senior when we are envious? What else do we do? Yeah, we blaspheme him, we criticize, we find faults behind his back, we talk badly. So why do we do that? Just to reduce his importance and establish our superiority. That's why we do these things. Right? And yesterday at the evening program we were briefly talking about it. Let us look again at an example. Let us imagine a traveling preacher visits, leads a kirtan, and then a friend of ours says, oh, that was a nice kirtan, wasn't it? And we say, yeah, it was alright, but we find something to criticize, to reduce his importance. In other words, but yes, the tune was a little strange, but his metta playing is not so good, needs a bit of improvement, and so we find something to reduce his importance. We do it quite commonly, actually. Yeah, we do it, and we don't even identify it. And our previous Acharya Sridhar Swami says, whether it's true or not, talking about faults of a Vaishnava means we blaspheme him. So even if it is true that his Devakī playing needs improvement, that the tune was a little unusual, even if it is true, just the fact that we feel impelled to make that statement means we are envious. Yeah. And this is something we very often overlook. We think, well, it's true. Can't I speak the truth? What's wrong with that? Freedom of speech, modern Kerala. We can speak the truth. And we can say, well, I'm only sharing my kirtan experience with my friend. What's wrong with that? Why can't I say how I felt, But no, just the fact that we want to make the statement, if we really reflect and look in our heart, we have to discover some envy there. And this is going on quite commonly, and we don't even realize, because the contaminated intelligence can find all the justifications for our behavior. That the contaminated intelligence says, yeah, well, but it's true, and we don't even identify it, that there's envy in our heart. Yes. So, and there's one more thing we do towards seniors when we are envious. What else do we do? When we are envious? No, I'm asking, what else, how is envy manifesting? So, how else is envy manifesting towards seniors? What do we do? Well, we said that already, but there's something else. What else do we do? Come on, think, participate, not just sit there and sleep. Huh? No respect. So how does that manifest?
You won't hear from them.
Yes, we don't want to hear. What else?
Defaming.
Huh?
Defaming them. Defaming.
Defaming, well, that's blasphemy. Same thing. Now we ignore him. We ignore him. We don't give him any attention. He's not worthy. He's nobody. Not worthwhile giving any attention to him. Not worthwhile even saying, "Hi Krishna, nice to meet you," or something. Yeah. We ignore him. You know, that is also a way how our envy manifests, that we just don't give him any attention whatsoever. Yeah. So now, the non-envious behavior, what did Prabhupada say? Who remembers? We said it already. We are pleased to meet him, we are jolly to receive him, right? And pleased really truly from the heart, and not just some plastic smile or something. And what else do we do? How do we associate with a more experienced person if we are not envious? Huh?
Be ready to serve him.
Yes, we want to serve and
Here.
we want to hear. So that's not only towards Guru, but towards any more experienced person. We want to eagerly serve, we want to eagerly hear. So when we're serving and hearing, these two aspects, they enhance each other. The more we humbly serve, the more eager we will be to hear. The more eager we be to hear, the more humbly we want to serve. So this hearing and serving enhances each other. They're very important aspects of how to take advantage of a more experienced person's presence. Right? Yeah. Yes. And maybe you also noticed that these days people often rather talk about themselves rather than inquiring and hearing from others, right? They like to talk about their big achievements, what they will be doing, and that. But to do that in the presence of a senior person would be a little inappropriate. You know? I mean, if that person asks us, so what service are you doing? What work are you doing? So that we can humbly share. But just to talk about ourselves always has that flavor of showing off and boasting. And this is not such a good thing to do if we want to develop bhakti. So now let us move on towards juniors. What is the envious? What's the envious way of treating juniors? What did Prabhupada say? Huh?
Giving orders to them in a
That's not what Prabhupada said. I first want to remember what Prabhupada said in the report. You may have come later, maybe there when we read it. Well, that you don't know. So for those who were here, what did Prabhupada say? How do we treat subordinates, juniors, if we are envious? We put them down, we deride them, we treat them in an oppressive way. That's what Prabhupada mentions in the book, oppressive. That we put them down, even though we are already superior, but we try and enjoy that superiority in some perverted way of, really showing that we are superior. And getting some perverted ego gratification there by treating them in an oppressive way. In a condescending way, talking down on them. Also, there's a few more things. I mean, deriding, so it means we make fun out of them. We make a joke on their expense, which makes them look even more foolish in the presence of others. These things should never be done. It's actually a or even kids at school mobbing each other. Kids can sometimes be pretty cruel with each other. That's actually envy. I remember last year I was visiting the Vrindavan Gurukul and we had this discussion. And then the kids themselves realized, there's mobbing and then going against somebody and putting them down. This is actually envy. So I know how to teach this to the kids, that this is inappropriate behavior. Yes, and there's a few more things. Let me first of all say the mood towards juniors when we are envious is that we say, all right, I want you to come up, but definitely not higher than I am. Right? We feel threatened when somebody maybe has some qualities which we don't have, and they actually develop more efficient capabilities, then we feel threatened. We keep them down because we want to be superior. All these things are going on in a subtle way. So we have that mood, I want you to come up, but not higher than I am. I am always up here, you will always be down there. That's envy. Let's make the diagnosis. And also when we delegate a task towards a junior, there's an envious way of delegating and a non-envious way of delegating. So the envious way of delegating is that we have this mood, either you do it or I do it. And if you want to do it, you do it. And we don't follow up. We don't ask, how are you doing? Maybe you need some help, maybe you need some more manpower, maybe you need some additional money, and then maybe you need some good advice. No. We are too busy. I've got so many things to do. He wants to do it. Let him do it. And maybe deep in our heart we are hoping that he will not be so successful. Then we can say, just see, I knew you can't do it, but you wanted to do it. Just see what comes out of it. Yeah. I know I should have done it, but you want to do it. So this is envy. The non-envious way of delegating, that we really want that person to be successful, even more successful than if we had done it. We want to help them to be more glorious than as if we had done it. That requires non-envy. And even though we helped him, We let him get all the credit. We are not saying, oh, actually I was doing this and that. No, we let him get all the credit and glory. We celebrate his success. And we are truly happy from our heart that he did it so much better than as if we had done it. So that requires not envy. Yeah, that requires not envy. And there's a few more little things that we do towards a subordinate when we are envious. Somebody mentioned it in the beginning, but then I didn't want to give attention to it because I wanted to first hear what Prabhupada said. So how do we treat a subordinate person? Sometimes even children. How do we treat them when we are envious? What do we do? Envious, Prabhu, envious. You're a step ahead of us. Envious. Huh?
Commanding sort of instruction.
Yeah, commanding. Actually, what we do is we unnecessarily and overly harshly and constantly correct and instruct people and chastise. If we have that tendency, then we should look in our heart. Or maybe I am envious, maybe I am enjoying my superiority in this way by constantly, overly harshly correct, chastise, instruct. Yeah. And that can also come to its children. Sometimes I see this, especially in the Western world. In the evenings, the mothers go to the supermarket shopping. They just picked up their small child from the daycare center. The mother has been out working all day. And then, the child hasn't seen the mother for the whole day. And then, the mother screams and yells at the child because the child wants some attention, makes some tantrum. So we see these things quite commonly. All that frustration and anger and envy, we lash out, we ventilate on children or subordinates. So we have to be very careful with these things. Very careful. Yes, or we try and keep people down by not giving them a chance to develop their talents. Right? That's also the way of thinking. And actually, Vaishnava etiquette even says that actually only a non-envious person should correct another person. Only if we are not envious. Yeah. Why is that? Because even if the correction is perfect, and if it is given with this huffy, agitated, envious, false ego mood, it actually contaminates the person's heart. Yeah. Good to know these things. Even if the instruction is perfect, but if you give it with the wrong mood, it ignites people's envy and anger in their heart. And then it poisons people's hearts, even with children too. Sometimes we may wonder, why is my child always rebelling when I instruct them? Well, maybe we are giving the instruction in a huffy, false ego, envious mood, and that's why the child is rebelling. Good to know. Right? I'm sure we have all been in this situation where we either receive an instruction or give an instruction with envious and false ego mood. Right? We have all been. So, how do we feel? How do we feel when we get an instruction or give an instruction in this envious, happy, false ego mood? How do we feel? What feeling do we have in the heart? Huh? You tell me. What? We rebel. Well, not when we give the instruction, then we don't rebel. But what feeling does it give us? Is it a good feeling? Do we feel good? No, we have an ugly feeling in the heart. And we may even be confused. We may think, well, but I had to give the instruction and the instruction was right. But why do I have this ugly feeling in the heart? Because it contaminates. The envy is contaminating. Yeah. So that is why this instruction is there. That only a non-envious person should correct others. Yes. Because if we give an instruction or correction with envy, it will poison the person's heart. And not only the other person's heart, but our heart too. Yeah. Good to know. You know, all these things are so subtle and easily we miss them. We don't even realize. We carry all these false ego patterns of behaviors, you know, our whole life long. We maintain them, we are trapped in them. Yes. That's what happens. Envy and false ego, by the way, they are good friends. They always like to move around together. And false ego is there first, thinking ourselves to be the supreme enjoyer and controller, and then the envy comes in. So they're inseparable. Yeah. So whenever we find ourselves in a situation where we have to correct or chastise somebody, if we are in this huffy mood where, oh, how can that person do it? I have to tell them right now, oh, this is wrong. If we find ourselves in this mood, that's a sign of false ego pushing us. So we should not give that instruction in that mood, because it will contaminate. We should wait until we cool down. Even with children also. You know? If we are in such a huffy, agitated mood, it will contaminate the child's heart and our heart also. So we should wait until we cool down. To sleeping it over one night is a good tip. Next morning, the world already looks differently. We have calmed down. Or maybe we need 2 or 3 nights to sleep it over until we really calm down. Yeah. Where are you going, Mataji? Oh, okay, good. Yes. Yeah, I mean, especially sitting on the bare floor, this is actually also against Vaishnava etiquette. You should sit on the cover. So why don't you come a little closer, or you take a chair. It's an offense to sit on the bare floor, actually, especially in front of the Devis, when the Devis are close. Yes. So, where was I? Yes, so we should wait until we cool down, and only then we give the instruction. And there's another good thing which we should remember. Can you hear this while you're spreading out the mat? Just, you may as well move the mat a little closer while sitting so far away. Yes. Just come closer, come closer. Thank God some people are coming, so I want to see your shiny faces. I'm a personalist. I like to connect with my audience. Okay. So yes, we should wait until we cool down, and only then we give the correction and instruction. And there's another good tip that before we offer that correction, we have this prayerful mood that we say, please Krishna, help me to get across this instruction and correction in a well-wishing mood, wanting their very best, wanting them to become successful. So if we have that prayerful mood before we offer the correction, then Krishna allows us to be non-envious at least for these 2 minutes when we give the instruction. Right? Even though we might not yet be free of envy. But at least if we have that prayerful meditation, then our way, how we offer the instruction, will come out in a well-wishing mood. And then the other person will, of course, accept it. You know, because they can feel, oh, this person wants my very best. This person is my dearest friend. Even children also. You know, if the mother gives the correction and chastisement in this well-wishing mood, then the child, of course, will feel that and will accept it. But if you're, so, yeah, this is contaminating, you know, and then we cannot be surprised that the child doesn't want to know about it, you know, especially when they're teenagers, my God. Yeah, so good to understand these things. So now let's have a look at the non-envious way towards juniors. What did Prabhupada say? Now you can come with the magic word. Huh?
Compassion.
Compassion. Yes. A non-envious way, a non-envious person towards juniors. He will have compassion. He will want to reach out affectionately. He will want to uplift them. Yeah. Actually, a non-envious person can connect with anybody for their ultimate benefit. Prabhupada was a perfect example. Prabhupada could connect with anybody, with a small child, with a student, with a hippie, with a drunkard, with a Christian priest, with a scientist. He could connect with anybody for their ultimate benefit, uplifting them. Yeah. And sometimes Prabhupada was very heavy, chastising people, fools and rascals, Buddhas, calling them so many things. But because it came from a non-envious heart, people could feel that. And as a rule, they were not taking offense. They could feel actually Prabhupada wanted their very best. So, but if we call people fools and rascals and Buddhas, then there's a good portion of arrogance and envy there, and so we should not imitate Prabhupada. There was actually a nice little story which happened in Melbourne, in Australia. As we know, Prabhupada used to go for morning walks, and in Melbourne once when he came back from his morning walk, he was sitting in the car and some group of devotees were with him, driving him back to the temple. And it was early in the morning, 6:30. So one of the devotees said to Prabhupada, "Look, Srila Prabhupada, all these Buddhas going to work." So in Prabhupada's reaction, he said, "Yes, how can we save them?" That was Prabhupada's reaction. How can we save them? So when that devotee looked over to Prabhupada, he saw Prabhupada crying a tear. How can we save them? That was Prabhupada's compassionate heart. Paradukha dukhi. That's the only thing that gives a pure devotee suffering is to see other people suffer. So then the devotee realized, his statement about the mood house was not so compassionate. It was actually envious, putting them down. Oh, look at these mood houses. Actually, another interesting point is there's also a statement in the Bhagavatam that a non-envious person is strict with himself, but he can be liberal and accommodating with others. That's a sign of non-envy. Whereas an envious person, he will demand everybody should act like I'm, why aren't they doing that? Let's take an example, eating chocolate. In ISKCON, it's a bit of a controversial topic. Some people eat chocolate, some people don't eat chocolate. Actually, Prabhupada also ate chocolate, and he really liked it when he was in Switzerland. Swiss chocolate is the best chocolate. He even asked for another piece. But then later he heard that there's caffeine in it, so then he said, oh, maybe better not to eat it. So anyway, this topic of chocolate, even at the MBT restaurant in Vrindavan, they distribute chocolate cake. So it's a bit of a grey zone. Some people eat it, some people don't. So, but a non-envious person will say, okay, I don't eat chocolate, but I don't get agitated if other people eat. Right? And they simply preach by the strict example. But then a person who is envious, he will get all agitated. They should eat chocolate. Oh, I've said, And maybe he also still likes the taste of chocolate, but he said to himself, okay, I will not eat it, but then he is envious if other people eat it, or they enjoy chocolate. They shouldn't. So sometimes we come across this, but there's envy behind it. So Prabhupada was again the perfect example. He was very strict, uncompromising with himself, but he could also be liberal and accommodating with others, knowing very well that once they receive a bit more purification and upliftment, they will come up in their statements. That's the non-envious way. So now let us move on towards juniors. No, hang on, we did that, towards equals. What is the envious move towards equals? What did Prabhupada say? Anybody remembers? How is the envious behavior manifesting towards equals? What did he say?
Not clean the basis.
Prabhupada didn't say that. What did Prabhupada say?
No friendly ways. No friendly ways.
Prabhupada said something else. What did Prabhupada say? Nobody remembers. He is asleep. Fast asleep. So the envious mood is. Nobody remembers? Come on, how many of you came late? So that you didn't hear, you missed out. So, what did Prabhupada say? How is the envy manifesting between equals? Come on, think. Okay, looks like I have a job. You want to say something? Just say it loud for everybody. Anyway, let me know. So, some cooking happening. This irritates my voice. Chilling in the air. Yeah, close to the So the envious way of dealing with equals is that we are proud of our activities. That's what Prabhupada said in the report, right? You remember? We are proud of our activities. We are chanting our own glories, talking about our big achievements, boasting, right? In other words, the envious behavior amongst equals, there's immediately competition there. So the mood is, okay, we are equals, but actually I'm a little superior. And I'm going to prove it to you, right? And then we talk about ourselves, all in the name of sharing. I'm just sharing with my friend what I've been up to, what's wrong with that? But no, it has that flavor of boasting and showing off, trying to establish our superiority. Right? Let us imagine two not so mature preachers meet. So one says to the other, oh, guess what? I just did a whole tour around America, and there was Rath Yatra in New York, and they asked me to lead the kirtan. You want to see YouTube? I sent you the link, you can watch it. And then there was the big stage program, and again they asked me to give the speech. Even though there were so many senior devotees, Maharajs there must have been desire. They asked me to give the speech. You want to see YouTube? And then I went to Los Angeles again, same thing, was after I was leading the kirtan, I gave the speech. I'll send you the whole thing. And like that we carry on and on and on and on. And then after a while we say, what about you? What have you been doing? And by that the other person thinks, oh, you're so great, I'm nothing. You're not even worthwhile talking about myself. You won the competition. Right? Yes. That's what's happening amongst equals. When we are envious, there's immediately competition. So, and what is the non-envious way of treating our equals? What did Prabhupada say? That's not what Prabhupada said. What did Prabhupada say? See, that's why I didn't want you to look at your phones, because otherwise you could just read it off the phone. I want you to hear attentively and remember. So see how little we remember. So if I ask you tomorrow, what do you remember from the class? It will probably be 2% or something. That's why I'm having books. Because how much do people remember from the seminar? But if you people have a book, so much more substantial. Of course, people still have to read it. So, what did Prabhupada say? The non-envious behavior amongst equals. Friendship, yes, we make friends. That's what Prabhupada said. So, but can't we be friends with seniors also and with juniors? Why only with equals? Well, of course we can be friends with seniors and juniors, but the friendship amongst equals, if we are non-envious, has a very special sweetness and intimacy. Actually, there's also a certain kind of competition happening, but that competition is very different. So how can we extinguish the insect face?
No, take now.
So what is the specialty amongst this friendship? How do they compete? How do they compete? Equals who are non-envious, what do they do? Come on, think. Equals when we are non-envious, Guru. Yeah, we give respect to each other out of Vaishnava humility. They both see themselves less experienced, right? And therefore they push each other forward. You Prabhu, you give the class, I want to hear from you. You Prabhu, you lead the kirtans. Your kirtans are so special. So they push each other forward. Not themselves. That's the envious mood. The non-envious mood is that push the other forward. And that's exactly the mood in Golaka Vrindavan. It is described. All the gopis, mandris, they feel more ecstasy, pushing the others towards Krishna, assisting them to make the most pleasing arrangement for the Lord, rather than pushing themselves. So we can just imagine when our Guru Maharaj comes to visit our temple, is Devakī Maharaj sometimes coming in? Yeah. So, are you in the mood of pushing the others forward towards him, letting them get his attention, or you want to push yourself forward and you get all the attention? So, probably more the second one, that we push ourselves forward. So that just shows how much we still have to work on our hearts to be qualified to enter Golaka Vrindavan. At this moment we don't fit there. Because we maintain all these subtle material attachments, even after understanding so many instructions on this matter. We commit the 10th offense, but they're so subtle that we don't even identify them. So like that, as the verse says, Prabhu Tata Kariya Vishabha Kirtanam, Prabhu Tata Bhai Krishna Pade Pramadana. So, if we commit these offenses, we get drained the holy name for many, many lifetimes. And we will not go back to God. Good to know this. Right? Yeah, so that's the non-envious behavior that push each other forward. And not only that, they share in a very intimate and confidential way. They share their secrets of their bhajan. That one says to the other, "Oh Prabhu, you've been a brahmachari for 35 years. Every day out of participation. What's your secret? How do you do it?" And then the other one says, "And you, Prabhu, you've been married for 35 years. And you're still, making so many valuable contributions to Lord Chaitanya's Sankirtan movement in so many different ways, and tolerating so many things. So what's your secret? How do you do it?" Right? So there's a very intimate personal sharing going on, which can only happen on the level of equals if we are non-envious. We can't share and inquire like that with seniors or juniors. But equals, there is this special intimacy here. Understand? So now, let me ask you, which relationship is most purifying? Seniors equals juniors. Huh? Which is most purifying? Huh? Juniors?
How you treat juniors? That's your question. How you treat juniors? That's purifying.
I'm asking which relationship is most purifying for us? To associate with seniors, with equals, with juniors.
Seniors.
Really?
Equally.
Equals, yes. Of course, as a young devotee, we are benefiting quite a bit by associating with seniors. But the equal association brings to the surface the most biting and pinching forms of envy from the most hidden corners of the heart. Right? Yes. Because to associate with juniors is no big deal to say, oh yeah, I'm their humble servant, no problem. And to associate with the top senior level is also not so difficult to say, oh yeah, I'm their servant, because we hope that some of their glory splashes over to us. Oh look, it's always me next to the Maharaj. I'm always right there in every picture, it's me. So he is the most special person, and I'm the next best one next to him. I come straight after him, comes me. Do you see? Right? But if we associate with equals, that's where we have to really show where we stand, whether we want to be humble servant or whether we are competing and we just want to be this little bit more superior. So equal association is most purifying. Even though it's 9 o'clock, but most of you came late, so I will also be late. Okay? With your permission. Yeah, because these topics are all deep. I usually have 1.5 hours to discuss all of this with question and answer. Deep topics you cannot do in 45 minutes or something. How? You need a bit more time. So the equal association, most purifying, His Holiness Radha Swami, he established a formula, which I believe is not a shastric formula, but he simply wants to establish and make this point, how important equal association is. So he says, out of 100% association, 60 should be spent with equals, 60%, only 20 with juniors, and 20 with the top, but 60 with equals. So, of course, as a new devotee, this may be quite natural in the Brahmacharya ashram, so much equal association. But then, as we become more senior, we usually have hardly any equal association at all, and maybe we even avoid it. We feel a little uncomfortable, right? Because we want to be the one. And again, we find all the justifications. Oh, I'm too busy with my project. I don't have time to go to this program. There's already so many seniors there. I'm busy here. But actually, maybe we feel uncomfortable in the association of equals. So that's why 60% of equal association would be good to have. And if we don't have 60%, we should be aware that we are leading a risky life. We don't have equal association. We have to be very very careful. And whenever we can get eco-association, we should run for it. So to actually share our influence with somebody equally influential, this is a challenge for that 40 years. You didn't get the point? To share our influence with another person who is equally influential. That's a challenge to our 40 ego, because then we feel threatened. Or maybe this person will be more liked, he will be more popular, he will be more influential. Then where am I there? No, don't let him come. I want to be the number one. So to share our influence with similarly influential people, that requires non-envy. Yeah. Most purified. And we have examples in the Shastra, when Preacher Maharaj wanted to do the 100 soul sacrifice. While Indra had 100, Preacher Maharaj 99, no problem. But then, when Preacher Maharaj wanted to do the 100s, Indra got so envious. What did he do? He stole the horse, so the yogi can't go on. My God, how much more envious can one be? Or in the past time, when Lord Brahma wanted to visit the Lord in Vaikuntha, and the gatekeepers asked, "Oh, who are you?" And Lord Brahma got all agitated. "What do you think? Who am I? I'm Lord Brahma, don't you know?" So then what did the Lord do? He called all the Lord Brahmas. He gave him equal association. And some of those other Lord Brahmas didn't only have 4 heads, but 10 heads, 100 heads, 1,000 heads. So that made our Lord Brahma a little more humble. Okay, I'm not the only Lord Brahma, and there's others who have more heads than me. So this shows the purifying effect of equal association. And maybe we have that experience when our Guru Maharaj comes, when there's 2 equally expert cooks cooking lunch for Guru Maharaj. This can be intense, right? If it's 1 expert, 1 helper, no problem. But 2 experts, oh my God. Right? And immediately the competition starts. Who knows better what Guru Maharaj writes? And now Guru Maharaj can't have that, don't you know? Now he told me, now he changed his style. No. I know better. Yes. Or I've seen it all. People stealing each other's pots and boga, like Indra and Preacher Maharaj stealing the horse, so the yogi can't go around. Or we don't share recipes. Only I know that favorite dish that Guru Maharaj likes, and I'm not going to tell anybody, so I'm the only one who knows how to cook this. This is all envy, If we were non-envious here, you want to know Guru Maharaj's favorite plant, he'll cook that and I'll give you the recipe. You will really like it. And then we will want that person to be successful and glorious. Not that I am the only one who knows the recipe. So this envy is really spoiling our relationships. And very clear, most conflicts in the world, inside ISKCON and outside ISKCON, they come through the difficulty of associating with egos. So I have no clue what's happening here in Trivandrum, but in most communities where I visit, there is some little ego battles, some tension going on, some power games, amongst some senior personalities, and yes, because that's so difficult to actually associate with equals. It's going on practically everywhere. So good to identify it, that we don't find find all these justifications. Oh, it's a personality clash, no, let's be honest, it's envy because we are competing. We want to be the topmost one. We can't share our influence with somebody similarly influential. So that's why the tension comes. So if we identify it, then we have more chance to let go of it. All right, so let me leave it at that. Some quick questions, since it is a practical topic. Loud.
The beginning, you said ABS is connected to sense enjoyment. It's also coming from sense enjoyment and ABS connected.
How is sense enjoyment and envy connected? Hang on, one at a time. Otherwise you'll forget the first one. So very simple. If we want to be the enjoyer, then we get envious if somebody also enjoys. And we want to push everybody down and establish our superiority so we can enjoy. Very simple. Right? Isn't it? Yes, as long as we have the desire to enjoy, there will be. And Prabhupada makes this beautiful descriptions of the spiritual world by planets, because there is no tinge of the desire for sense gratification. Therefore, there is no envy. Prabhupada says, in the spiritual world, there is no envy, because there is no desire for sense gratification. Yes.
Which is question.
Loud, so I can hear you.
We are saying categorizing is equals. In the equals also, there will be some devotees are well advanced or some are.
So that question always comes up. What is the criteria to understand who is senior, equal, junior? So the ultimate criteria, or was that not the question?
So if we speak to the advanced equal devotees, then we will get benefit.
Advanced.
For example, we say equals in the years. For example, I joined 20 years and serving. He is also 20 years.
So that's why, let me just explain what are the criteria between equal, senior, junior. So the main and foremost criteria is one's Krishna consciousness, one's power to uplift others, because we may be continuing from previous lives or just looking at one life when a person joined, that doesn't mean much. So the ultimate criteria is a person's spiritual strength and power to uplift others. But since that is not so easy to assess, that's why we take the external criteria, which are actually material. So the most common one is, when did a person become a devotee? When did he take up the process of Krishna consciousness? But in the ultimate sense, it doesn't say anything. The person may be in Krishna consciousness for 30 years, but if he's not strictly practicing, he never comes to the program, he doesn't follow properly, then obviously he's not that advanced. But another person may only be for 15 years in Krishna consciousness. That person may continue from previous life, very seriously practicing, so that person may have so much more spiritual power to uplift others. So the ultimate criteria is people in spiritual strength.
So we should associate with that spiritually advanced.
That's the ultimate criteria, but since we can't judge people, that's why we take the external criteria. When did a person join? When did they become initiated? Even the age, if somebody is 20 years older, we consider them superior just because of their life experience. Managerial position is also to be seen as superior, even though the person may be less time in Krishna consciousness than we, just because he has a management position, we accept him as superior. And Bhaktivinoda Thakur gives another funny criteria. He says, the person with a bigger body, he is considered superior. So we better watch out, he's got a big body, okay? Yeah, Bhaktivinoda Thakur said. Yeah, so these criteria are there, but they're all other material. And of course, Govinda Maharaj recommends the humble mood. Everybody else is a sadhu. I'm just a beginner. Then we're always safe. You know? But sometimes, for the sake of Vaishnava etiquette, we have to accept the role of being superior. You know, to teach everybody else that we have to let the seniors go first. So, but that requires also humility to say, okay, let me just accept the role of being superior, just to help others to learn the Vaishnava culture. Yeah, like that. Yeah, I mean, some people have left already, maybe we should leave it at that. Would you like me to one more time tell about the books? Hey, Prabhu, Hare Krishna. Thank you. So, I'm asking, would you like me to one more time tell a little bit about the books? Or have you all heard what these books are like?
We have pre-ordered.
Huh?
We have already pre-ordered.
You have ordered. Actually, many temples get a whole set for the Brahmacharya ashram. So the Brahmacharis were away. So that's why I'm thinking, but maybe you don't need to tell everything again. Is there anybody who has not heard what these books are about? I think you, I haven't seen your face. Oh, you, yes. Have you heard what these books are all about? Huh?
He books are
Huh?
He doesn't know.
He doesn't know. See, I know. I haven't seen you before. So I will tell it just for you. I will tell it one more time just for you. To maybe try and inspire you to get some books. Spiritual Culture, Krishna's Divine System. This book is all about women. We women have a powerful Shakti. You're single or married? Single. Yeah. Every man should know that this man-woman equality puts the whole human society upside down. That's what this book is all about. Nobody talks about it. That's why the Brahmacharis should also know this. Because we women have a powerful energy. And Bhagavatam says we should be the power of inspiration to the men and not compete. But now man-woman equality, the women compete with the men. And that weakens the men. That's why in Kali Yuga, the men become more and more weak and irresponsible. Because we women don't empower them. We empower ourselves. We want to be the hero rather than making the man the hero. That's what this book is all about. Nobody talks about this. Too controversial for people. And of course for women, very important to know these things, so they know how to use their Shakti, because a woman can bring the very best out of a man, or she can ruin his life. That's the power of a woman. The topic of envy is in this book. They are giving also 5 steps how to uproot envy. We didn't have time for this here. So yeah, there's so much more there. The culture of correcting others. We talked a little bit about it. Culture of respect. Basically the topic is that without having a counselor sheltering relationships, we cannot make advancement. So when you read this, you will be convinced that without having a counselor and becoming one to others, we actually cannot progress. That's what this book is all about. Then we have the false ego, our constant companion and troublemaker. As we mentioned, envy, false ego, very good friends. So there you get a deep understanding what this false ego is all about. It's so subtle that we usually miss it, we don't identify. And there's our chapter on chanting the holy name. How we are meant to change to actually receive the power and blessings which the holy name carries. So we all know Tina, we recite it all, but we don't realize what it actually means in our daily life. So yeah. Holy name, false ego, powerful combination. There's a lot of interesting things. Then we have entering the Devī. It's a handbook for matchmaking. How to see that a man and a woman are compatible for marriage. We need a bit of help with this here in India. People only look at caste and money and maybe the good looks and that's it. Or the devotional levels of compatibility, people don't even look at it. I met initiated devotees who rather arrange a non-devotee for their children to marry who's from the same caste than a devotee from a different caste. My God, what is this? I was completely shocked when I heard this. How can people rather choose a non-devotee? And so they put the caste as more important than the devotional qualities. Oh my God, terrible, terrible. It shows, what is our main priority? Obviously not bhakti. So we have to refine our matchmaking. So there you find a whole list of over 200 topics which a boy and a girl should discuss with cool air to see are we on the same page. In the presence of the parents or counselor or whatever. Very important. Then family life as an ashram, secrets of success. How to create the culture of bhakti in our home. Most homes you cannot call it an ashram. It's not a suitable place for bhakti. We have to transform our habits, lifestyle, and so it's like a handbook for successful Krishna conscious family life. Should be in every household. And there's a whole chapter on physical intimacy in marriage, how to live this principle of fellowship, etc. There's a bit of confusion over it. People are at a loss, they don't know how to make things work. Nobody talks about it. So I did some research, I came across interesting stories with Prabhupada, where he says things which most people haven't heard. So preachers need to know these things, they have to give the right guidance. Yes. And the Vanapasashram, meeting death with joy. There's a whole chapter on death, what happens there on the subtle levels, how to support others. Very important when our parents die. I had quite a few people writing to me saying, I wish I had read that book before my mother or father passed away. Then I could have given them more support. I would have known what to do. But I was not ready. All I knew is bring the Mahamantra in people's ears or Tulsi from the tongue or whatever. But there's so many more things we have to consider. I accompanied quite a few people in these last 2 weeks. They're very crucial. So we have to know what to do, to really help people to let go and move on and yes, be focused. And Vanapasashram is the stage in life when the kids are more or less established and the parents should move on to the next phase of life. Not established, nobody talks about it, nobody plans for it. Nobody has a clear idea what is this Vanapasashram, even though it's all in the Bhagavatam. It's all there. So people need some complementary literature to understand how to apply Prabhupada's teachings in their daily life. That's what I'm trying to do. So if there's still somebody who didn't get any books, if you want any, the last 4 are $350 each. First one is 300. Many people already got the whole set on Wednesday, on one last one is yesterday. So, whole set comes to 2,000 rupees, you can pay cash over the QR code. Okay, thank you so much for your kind attention. Srila Prabhupada King So if there's anybody, please come right now before you go to the shop, because I will go and I will not be around afterwards. So yeah, you should consider to get a set for the ashram. Every temple has a whole set of the ashram. You can use it for preaching, or each book is a 15-hour course. So all you have to do is read 1-2 chapters, take some notes, all Prabhupada's quotes